We have a general idea of what levels does. Let's do some practical fun here. This is an image of mom.tif, and that is in your exercise file. Go ahead and open that one up. What I want to show you is one of the wonderful things that levels can do for you, but let's talk a little bit about this image and how it got here. This image was taken without the benefit, obviously, of a digital camera. They didn't have digital cameras back then, unless you believe in aliens, because I bet they have digital cameras even way back then. So it was a film photograph scanned. Couple of tricks on scanning, but understand we do have an entire lesson series on photo restoration that's going to cover this a whole lot more. But scan it at a resolution of 300. 300 is kind of a magic bullet when you think about it. You can go higher if it's got a lot of damage and you want to maybe enlarge the image after you fix it. But 300 is a good number, don't go lower. Scan it as RGB. I've had students say, but it's not a color image. It is now. Look at that sepia. That's usually caused by oxidized chemicals over the years. And we need that information to fix it, believe it or not. So we've scanned it, saved it, RGB, brought it into Photoshop. Let's go into levels and we'll use our adjustments panel right here. And there she is. Now look at how it's compressed. That should be over here. Images don't fade. Now that's a good term, we all use it. But fading's not really as accurate as the term compress. Images fade, fading is linear. If you look at Greg Gran, she has got on a black fur coat, must have been cold that day. Basically, that's black, but it isn't anymore. It's getting lighter than black. And if you look at mom's mom here, she's got this area of lace. Now, that lace should be white, but it isn't. It's getting dingy. So if you want to look at it this way, darks are getting lighter and the lights are getting darker. The image, as you can see it here, is compressing. We need to uncompress it. Now, the beauty in the value of scanning in RGB, we haven't touched on this yet, is we have the ability to change each channel one at a time. When you are working with RGB altogether and you move these sliders, it's like you're moving all three reds and greens and blue numbers at the same time. If you go to each channel and do what we're going to do, you're changing the percentages of the red, green, and blue, and you're actually doing things like contrast and color correction. If you do it from RGB, you're doing tone. We need contrast. So we're going to start with red. Just go to red. Move the black slider, the shadow slider, all the way to the base of the mountain. Don't worry about the numbers. This is not about numbers. You can be one or two off and still do okay. Move the white one, or the highlight, right there. Now notice the image went distinctly green. It's because we told the computer to take this little lump of a mountain and stretch it all the way out to here, and it changed the distribution of the color red with the other two. Now I'm going to turn off with this button the preview. I want to prove a point. You don't have to look at the image. Just trust your levels properties. Go into green and do the same thing. Just move the slider until you get right under the base of the mountain and do the same thing over here. Finally, go to blue and do the same thing. We're just moving the sliders, just using visual references, no numbers involved. But we're telling the computer to take that really small mountain and stretch it out to the dynamic range of black to white. But that's probably pretty close to what it would have looked like a long time ago if we could have viewed the image when it was brand new. Go back now to RGB and check it out. See how it's stretched out? Now the gaps are called the comb, C-O-M-B, the comb effect. Those gaps represent the spaces that were on the left and the right when it pulled it apart. But the algorithms in levels, Photoshop actually, are really cool. They do a really good job, but they expect us to do our job in telling it where to stretch it out, and that's what we did. Now we can turn it back on again and see the difference. That is not too bad for moving a couple of sliders, and I promise you this, if you stop right now Get out your scanner and an old photograph and you do exactly what I just did. You will have exactly the same results. Now, this is the start of a restorative process. Like I say, we cover that in a lot more detail in our series on photo restoration. But it's an amazing tool. Levels can do a whole lot of things for you. There's a lot of information here. And don't forget, you even have things like some presets if you want to try these out too. Levels is amazing. It has been there since the beginning. And it manipulates information on a channel by channel basis in an almost scalpel-like way. On to the next.